Hi everybody, welcome to this next video from the Wisconsin First Detector Network. Today we're joined by Niels Jorgensen, who is a PhD student here at UW-Madison, and he'll be talking about some tools that he's developed to help inform invasive plant surveys.
So we have a unique problem or you could call it a challenge, in our state. We have many invasive plants that are regulated by the DNR. And what you're looking at here is just a subset of those species. We have over 100 regulated terrestrial invasive plants across the state. And so if we're interested in trying to get involved with survey efforts for reporting some of these invasive plants, there can be a lot of challenges, and that can lead to questions like, how do I know what to search for? What plants should I be searching for in my specific area? And which of these plants are of highest priority in my area? So to get at this challenge or problem, if you will, we've started to develop some tools to assist with invasive plant surveys across the state. And one way that we can assist is through the process of habitat suitability modeling. Essentially what we're doing is we are taking known presence points of various invasive plants across the state, and those occurrence records come to us from a wide variety of sources such as EdMaps, the Wisconsin DNR, as well as the Great Lakes Early Detection Network, and many of you have reported some of these species. What we do is we take those occurrence records and we combine them with what we think are good predictors of suitable habitat across the state. And these can range from climatic factors to soil attributes, distance to roads and waterways, as well as things like topographic attributes such as elevation and slope. And what we get is this pixelated map that depicts areas that are suitable for a given species and areas that are unsuitable. And specifically, we're running 5 different methods here, and so the output of these models is actually essentially a heat map of where the models agree suitable habitat exists for a given species. So here we're looking at the model for Phragmites across the state, and the nice thing about these models is that you can actually zoom in and look at some of the nuances of the distribution of suitable habitat for any of these given species that we've modeled. But there can be some challenges with trying to interpret this map. We also have some challenges with actually sharing these maps in an easily accessible way online. These are very large files, and we can't always just put them up for sharing, although we are open to sharing to anyone who is interested. So what we've done is we've tried to summarize these models in very useful ways. And in order to do that, what we've done is we started to break up the state into the 72 counties, because likely if you're going to be interested in surveying for invasive plants, you're going to be looking within your county or counties that you work, live, or play in. So we split up each one of our 21 species models into the counties, and we've looked at, well, what is the percent of the county deemed suitable habitat? In addition to that, what is the known current distribution of the invasive plant in those counties? So we take this information and we can put them into priority species lists. Essentially, these are just short lists of 10 to 15 species that have some sort of priority within a given county. And we put these species into 3 different bins. They're either omitted from the list because there's no suitable habitat, or it's a very well documented species. We can put them onto a priority list, or we can put them into the highest priority category. And essentially the difference between those two is, one, where a species has at least 10% of the county deemed suitable is a priority species first and foremost, and then when we have limited knowledge of the distribution of that plant in a given county, say less than 20 occurrences, we place it into this high priority category. And instead of me just sending out lists to each of you, we've actually put that into a easily accessible online tool called an Esri Story Map, which I'll get to in a second. But I just want to illustrate to you for a second why we're trying to push out this resource. And that comes down to knowledge gaps. So if we look at our distribution model for, say, Canada thistle across the state, you'll see that there's a lot of suitable habitat. And one of the drivers is distance to roads for Canada thistle, and we do find that a lot on roadsides. But when we actually look at what our current known distribution of Canada thistle is, there's this huge knowledge gap in the middle of the state, even though we've predicted that there is quite a bit of suitable habitat in that area. So what we're really trying to do is get individuals to report some of these species that we have limited knowledge of so that we can improve our ability to model some of these species, as well as improve our understanding of the distribution overall across the entire state for planning purposes, etc. In addition, I'm showing you garlic mustard here. We know that garlic mustard has a lot of suitable habitat across the state, and particularly in the southwest, the model has predicted a lot of suitable habitat, but again, we have this knowledge gap. So we're trying to focus in on reporting garlic mustard in these areas. So now I'm just going to overview the Esri story map. And so again, this is a tool that we created to showcase our priority species list based on those habitat suitability models. So I'll show you how you get here in just a second, but this would be the landing page once you click on the link. We have a short description of our objectives for our project, as well as ways that you can get involved. So when you're ready, you can just go ahead and click on your specific county. This is Eau Claire County, and you'll see again about 10 to 15 species will pop up, and those highlighted in yellow are our high priority species, and those in white are priority, and again, we've omitted other species that we're not placing into either of these priority categories. So that's great, but maybe you want to know a little bit about the distribution of some of these species. So you'll see all the tabs along the top. You can click on any one of those species, and it'll take you to a map of the current known distribution of, and we're looking at Canada thistle here. And in addition, I've linked things like the Wisconsin DNR website for this specific species, as well as any links to UW extension fact sheets or identification videos if we have those available. This is the known distribution of spotted knapweed across the state. You'll see that we are listing that we have a link to the Wisconsin DNR website, the UW extension fact sheet, as well as the YouTube video for identifying spotted knapweed. And I've also put some reference photos in a pop-up window. These are not meant to be the specific report, but just to show you what the species actually looks like should you be interested. So that's just a quick overview of the resource. It's really meant for you to explore. So how can you access it? You can type in this funky looking URL, or you can go over to the WIFTN website and then click on the Learn tab, and then on the Priority Invasive Species Story Map, which I'll show you here. Again, just the Learn tab, and you can open it up through this link. In the last little bit here, I want to just showcase how this has been helping us throughout the last couple of years. So I want to give one good example. This is leafy spurge, and from 2015 to 2016, we doubled the number of reports we had across the state. And then by 2017, so last year, we added another couple hundred new reports of leafy spurge. So we know that with our efforts to engage volunteers, that we're bringing in new reports, and that we're actually starting to fill in some of the knowledge gaps of these invasive plant distributions across the state. So just last year, we added over 4,400 new reports, and most of those were individual reports. On top of that, we do have some more bulk uploads that are still kind of in the pipeline. So we've added many new reports to our growing database. And nearly 4,000 of those were actually species that we have models for. So a really impressive year in 2017. Moving forward, be on the lookout throughout the season for WIFTN updates. There will be some reporting challenges, and some of those will involve reporting priority species and you can reference back to the story map for what those will be in your area. And with your continued input and great volunteer work, we can continue to improve our tools, we can improve those models, and subsequently we can improve our story map as well as potentially other new tools into the future. And this is really in part because you're helping us report things in areas that we just can't always get to in the state. So keep up the great work, keep up the reporting, and we really do appreciate all that you do for us. In addition, if you've seen the story map many times now and you feel like this is too redundant for you, then I challenge you to actually go out and work with a friend or a family member to get them up to speed with invasive species and reporting in their area, and we can continue to expand our network. And finally, be on the lookout for announcements from WIFTN and typically does announcements for species of the week or bi-weekly species. And so be on the lookout for those and also be reporting those when you do see them, even if they're not on the priority species list. Again, that's meant as a tool, as a guide to get you into reporting invasive plants in your area, but there are many more species. And just a short list of species that I'm particularly interested in you looking for as well are Dame's rocket. You'll start to see this coming out pretty soon. We know that this is spreading in Wisconsin, but we don't have very many reports. And we tried to model this species last year, and it didn't yield a very successful model. So if we can continue to report this species, we can help you predict where it will show up into the future. In addition, we've tried to work with black locusts in the past and have been unsuccessful with producing a useful model. So if you see black locust, which is also spreading in Wisconsin, very widespread, particularly on roadsides and forest edges, be on the lookout for black locust and please do report it when you see it. Multiflora rose might surprise some of you, but we do have limited reports of multiflora rose, and they're fairly spotty, but we do know that this is also a widespread species in Wisconsin. So if you do see it, please report it. Japanese hops is, I would say, maybe a relatively new species compared to some of these other ones. If you do see this, we have very limited knowledge of its distribution, so be on the lookout for it and report it when you see it. And finally, our partners at the DNR are really interested in managing populations of reed mannagrass, or Glyceria maxima. So if you do find this one, please report that and we can pass that information along to our partners over there. So with that, I'd like to just thank you for tuning in and continue to fight the good fight and report invasive species. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Niels. One quick comment, if you're getting overwhelmed by the number of species and you're thinking, gosh, I don't even know what that looks like, this is a reminder that we've got lots of identification information on the WIFTN website. So if you log on to the website, you'll click on the link to access fact sheets and ID videos, and that'll get you started with learning about unfamiliar species. One question for you, Niels, about the models. I know today we're talking a bit more about the story map and how that can help people figure out what to report. But what's the end goal with these habitat suitability models in terms of people being able to use that information on the ground while they're out managing invasives?
Well, I think ideally we would have this in an easy to access cell phone app. That would be the ideal goal. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to glean a lot of useful information from those models. So not only what is the distribution of suitable habitat in Wisconsin, but also what are some of the drivers of suitable habitat per species. And that's some information that we're really trying to put together right now and get out as well. In the future, we'd like to expand beyond our 21 models to many more species, and that will be possible should we get more reports for some of these species, and we'll be getting those out to the public as soon as they can become available.
So it sounds like we've got a couple of things going on. Basically, the habitat suitability models ideally will be able to be good predictive tools for land managers or landowners who want to know what sorts of species might have suitable habitat in the area. And at the same time, the story map is really useful for people to know what kinds of species are around and what species that we need more information about. I think I'd like to reiterate a point that you made earlier, Niels, which is with your examples of Canada thistle. I think most people recognize that that's a very widespread species, and they might think, well, everybody knows that it's already everywhere. Why should I bother reporting it? And I think that you illustrated really nicely that even if it is a species that anecdotally is widespread, it's really important to have verifiable information about that. And it's easy to do that with the Glutton app or just sending an email to WIFDN to report those species. Thanks, Niels, again for coming in and sharing an update on the story map. If you haven't visited the story map yet, it's a great resource. I definitely encourage you to check it out, explore it a little bit, see what species you should report in your county, and maybe learn where these species have already been reported. Thank you for watching this video from the Wisconsin First Detector Network. To learn more about our network or to access additional information about invasive species in Wisconsin, please visit our website or contact us.